Hi everyone, this is Rob coming to you from the Mishimoto Engineering Facility. If you haven't already, make sure to like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more exclusive content. Today, we're going to install our cold air intake on your 2014 Plus Fiesta ST. Since we're already diving into an intake upgrade, now is a great time to go ahead and install our upgraded intercooler piping and intercooler. Let's get started. Tools required for installation are 2.5 and 4 millimeter Allen keys, T20 Torx, 7, 8, 10, and 12 millimeter sockets, quarter drive ratchet, and a flathead screwdriver. Installation time is under an hour. Installation difficulty is a 3 out of 5. Remove the engine cover by lifting directly upwards. The cover is held on by 4 rubber grommets. Remove the nut that secures the air intake tubing to the valve cover. Unscrew and remove the plastic stud that secures the air intake tubing to the valve cover. Disconnect the crankcase vent hose from the intake tubing by squeezing the knurled tabs where the connector meets the intake tubing. Then swing the vent hose out of the way. Disconnect the evap hose from the rubber intake hose. Pry the green locking tab away from the connector to release it, then pull the hose off the port. Loosen the clamps that secure the rubber intake hose to the airbox and intake tubing. Then remove the rubber intake hose from the vehicle. Disconnect the mass airflow sensor electrical harness. Unlock the connector by sliding the red locking tab out of the connector, then separate the connector from the sensor. Remove the airbox isolator bushing. Remove the T20 Torx screw that runs through the center of the bushing, then remove the bushing by pulling it upwards. Separate the air intake duct from the radiator support by prying up on the edge near the center of the duct. Remove the air intake duct and the airbox as one unit by pulling the airbox upwards. The airbox is secured to the vehicle with 2 rubber grommets. Remove the mass airflow sensor from the stock airbox. Remove the 2 T20 Torx screws that secure the sensor, then remove the sensor from the airbox. Transfer the mass airflow sensor to the Mishimoto intake pipe and secure it with the supplied 2.5 millimeter Allen bolts. Loosen the clamp that secures the intake air tubing to the turbocharger, then remove the intake air tubing from the vehicle. This is a tight fit, so take your time. If you are getting tied up on the vacuum hose, remove it by squeezing the knurled tabs on the connector and pulling the line off of the vacuum pump. Remove one of the isolator grommets from the intake air tubing. Push the metal sleeve out of the grommet, then pull the grommet out of the slot. Transfer this grommet to the slot on the Mishimoto intake pipe and insert the metal sleeve. Slip a worm gear clamp over the narrow end of the Mishimoto silicone intake tube. Orient the worm gear clamp so you will be able to access the adjustment nut when it's installed on the vehicle. Then install the silicone intake tube to the turbocharger inlet. Snug the worm gear clamp but do not fully tighten it. Slip a worm gear clamp over the other end of the silicone intake tube and align the clamp so the adjustment nut is accessible. Install the Mishimoto intake pipe. Slip the isolator grommet over the stud on the valve cover and slide the pipe into the silicone intake tube. Install the 10 millimeter nut that secures the intake, but do not fully tighten it yet. Install the plastic stud that secures the engine cover and snug it down. Remove the air intake duct from the stock airbox. Pry between the tab on the duct and the body of the airbox to release the duct. Slip the intake duct and intake pipe into the Mishimoto airbox and install the airbox. Slip the pegs on the base of the airbox into the grommets on the vehicle and connect the intake air duct to the radiator support. Install the air filter. Slip the filter over the intake pipe and secure it with the worm gear clamp. Install the airbox lid and secure it with the supplied 4 millimeter Allen bolts and washers. Install the evap hose to the intake pipe and engage the green locking tab. Connect the mass airflow sensor and engage the red locking tab. If you removed it earlier, connect the vacuum line to the vacuum pump. Connect the crankcase vent hose to the intake pipe. Adjust the position of the intake pipe if needed, then secure the pipe by fully tightening the 10mm nut on the valve cover. Fully tighten the clamp that secures the silicone intake boot to the intake pipe. Fully tighten the clamp that secures the silicone intake boot to the turbocharger inlet. Install the engine cover by pushing it down over the studs. Now that you have the intake installed on your vehicle, double check your work. Make sure that all the hoses are firmly connected and the clamps are tight. Check the mass airflow connector and confirm that the locking tab is engaged. Then fire up your Fiesta for a test drive. Don't forget to click subscribe before you head out.